Hello everybody, hope you guys are enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at an updated Tropical Storm Arthur forecast here. It's been upgraded to a tropical storm. Yesterday I said it was a subtropical storm. Turns out it was a tropical storm, so I did want to correct myself there. It was a tropical storm, and it is continuing to be a tropical storm. It's going to be moving throughout the Atlantic, and it's going to be brushing along the North Carolina coastal areas, and then it's going to be making its way to the east. We're going to be giving you a bunch of that information in today's video, as well as your model guidance, and then also we're going to look at a couple other products from the National Hurricane Center. So here's your current National Weather Service page, and we do have some flood watches and flood advisories over parts of the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. We have some red flag warnings over parts of the desert Southwest. We have heat advisories over southernmost Texas there. We also have some wind advisories and high wind warnings scattered throughout parts of California, Nevada, and Utah. And we have some wind advisories also for the Dakotas. And then we also have some flood watches and some winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories for about a foot of snow over parts of the higher elevations of California there. So it is definitely, it still can snow in May, even though we're in the middle of May. Those areas are very highly elevated, so it is definitely a possibility that you do see snow during May. So it is definitely a bit peculiar to see snow in May, but it's definitely not the picture, and you could potentially go skiing this weekend if the ski resorts are open over parts of California. So definitely there is a very active weather day. We also have those tropical storm warnings over parts of off the shore of North and South Carolina, and then as you get to the northeastern coastal areas, you just have a gale warning, I believe. Now here is your current surface analysis map from the Weather Prediction Center, and we have North Carolina, off the shore of North Carolina, very closely tucked into the North Carolina coastline. This is much further west than what we were expecting to happen. Much of the more bullish models were actually bringing this further up the coast. Now most of the models are bringing this closer to the North Carolina coast and then kind of bringing it back to the southeast. So we'll have to see what happens with this. Now something else that I do want to point out, it is going to be hard for this system to develop because we are in this very, very large ridge of high pressure that's draping across parts of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. Now, this red here, or this orange and the lighter oranges, these indicate areas of high pressure. And you see, this is our tropical storm Arthur right here, and it's squashed in between this ridge of high pressure, and that's going to significantly weaken this from, even if it did want to go up to the Northeast coast, which it can't because you do have that high pressure again in place, it would be significantly weakened. As it's moving off to sea, it's also going to weaken because it is going straight into this ridge of high pressure, and it has very, very little room to really sustain its tropical storm status, and it's eventually going to drop down into a depression and then potentially even post-tropical within the next coming days. Here's your current infrared loop, and this is showing you your infrared cloud tops, and the colder these cloud tops, which are indicated by the more vibrant colors, so the reds, the yellows, the oranges, the blacks. Those are indicating deeper convection, and that's also indicating those colder cloud tops. That leads to rising clouds, and that will also help strengthen this storm system. And you see, it is still fairly unorganized here, and you can barely pick out that low pressure system. It's right in here, and you see it's really on the northern and eastern side of this really developing, but then on the southern side you see pretty much nothing here on the southern side in terms of the infrared loop. If we look at your visible satellite, again, very little cloud cover on the southern side. On the northern side, a lot of cloud cover in place. You see we do have that system. Yesterday had somewhat of a defined eye of circulation. Right now, we really don't have that anymore, and it's really just wrapping in between itself. So it's going to be moving a little bit further, more further to the north, and then it's going to be making its way further to the east. Now, here's a look at your National Hurricane Center and what they're forecasting in terms of their cone of uncertainty. You see, they're keeping this tropical storm anywhere with this S indicates a tropical storm, and that would be all the way until about 2 a.m. Thursday Eastern Time, and then by 2 a.m. Friday, it turns to a tropical depression, and by that point, it's just past Bermuda, and it's moving to the south. So it'll impact parts of North Carolina with some potential impacts of tropical storm force wind speeds and potentially gusts reaching close to that hurricane status, but definitely not sustained winds at hurricane status. And then as it hits Bermuda, it'll be a very weak tropical storm into a fairly strong tropical depression, and then it'll move further to the south, away from many of the land masses here, and it'll be pretty much all out to sea by about 2 a.m. Friday. Now, here's your current model guidance from many of the main models here, and you see all of them taking it further out to the east and then bringing it south again. Now, here are your GEFS storm tracks or GFS ensemble models, and you see that many of them have it taking it out to the east, but a couple of them do have it strangling out to the west, making very minor impacts to parts of the coastal northeast and mid Atlantic. That is still many of those are still outlier models, and a lot of these models are still tracking it further to the north and then bringing it east and then south again. Here's your GEPS tracks, and this is another ensemble model, and we do have many more of those models actually making impact to the mid Atlantic and northeast, but that's still only about 25% of the models that are indicating a landfall of some sort to parts of Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and even into New Jersey. Now, here's your current model intensity guidance from these models, and you see many of them bring it up to about a mid-level tropical storm to maybe even an upper level tropical storm here with wind speeds in knots sustained of about 45 to about 55 miles per hour, and a couple of these models even wanting to bring it closer to 60 miles per hour. Currently, none of them bring it up to that Category 1 status, which would be this yellow area further up on your screen right here. None of those models bring it up to that Category 1 status or that hurricane status. And then by about 72 hours from now, it's pretty much in that tropical depression status. Now, I'm just going to quickly read off your key messages from the National Hurricane Center about Tropical Storm Arthur here. They say tropical storm warning is in effect for portions of the North Carolina coast. Tropical storm force winds and heavy rains are expected there today. Dangerous coastal surf conditions and rip currents are expected to spread northward along the southeast U.S. coast to the mid-Atlantic states during the next couple of days. See products from your local National Weather Service forecast office for more details. Now, here's your arrival of those wind speeds and the probability that you'll see some tropical storm force wind speeds of about 39 plus miles per hour. And you see anywhere in those greens, we're between about 5 to 30% chance of seeing those tropical storm force wind speeds, between 30 and 60% chance in that yellow or gold. In the oranges and reds, we're between 60 and 90% chance, and then in the purples, that's where you're pretty much guaranteed at a 90 to 100% chance of seeing some tropical storm force wind speeds here over parts of the North Carolina area. Now, here's your history of wind speeds with this system, and we do have some tropical storm force wind speed history. Anywhere indicated in this yellow region is where they were showing some tropical storm force wind speeds, and that was off the coast of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and then kind of into North Carolina. And if this were to head northward, you would probably see those tropical storm force wind speeds just touch about Cape Hatteras there, and then the storm would start to make its eastward trajectory there. Now, here is your total rainfall from today, and this is your 24-hour rainfall, because by the later part of today, it's pretty much out of here and it's going off to sea. We have about 1 to 2 more inches of rainfall in place near, again, the Cape Hatteras area, the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Yesterday, you saw 2 to 4 inches of rainfall in these areas, and then this is your additional rainfall and what's still to come. Now, here is your chance of flash flooding, and it's a fairly low chance, but still, chances there. Make sure you turn around don't drown, because you don't know how deep that water is when you're driving around. 5% chance, a marginal risk of seeing some flash flooding in that area. So not a huge risk, but definitely still a possibility there. Now here's your Recon flight path, and then we're gonna go into what they actually observed here. And this is when they fly those aircraft into those storm systems to see if they can pick up wind speeds, air pressure, all of that. And they actually recorded an air pressure earlier this morning. It was at about 1001 to about 1002 millibars, and right now it's about 998 millibars, and it's currently, I believe, it will drop probably a millibar or two. Excuse me, by the time we reach later on this afternoon. And if they do on the Recon flight path, they'll probably find a little bit deeper pressures before they start to rise again. Now, here's what they found during that Recon flight path, and they saw these are wind gusts in knots here. So anywhere in those blues, that's where they're seeing between 10 and 34 knots. So that's below tropical storm force wind speeds. Then 34 to 45 knots, that's above tropical storm force wind speeds. Then as you get into those yellows and oranges, that's between 45 and 55 knot wind speeds. And then you even see a couple of 55 to 60 knot wind speeds dotted in here over parts of the eastern side of this storm, which is still the most impactful area, or the most strengthened part of the storm. And you can really tell by their flight path. They were originally, it took them a while to get there last night. They were coming in from about Pensacola, Florida, and they were moving eastward, and it took quite a while, couple of hours, to reach the storm. And then once they finally got there, you see this western side of this, not too bad. They're seeing wind gusts between 20 and about 40 miles per hour. I'm converting this to miles per hour for you guys. And then on the eastern side of this, you're seeing between about 45 to about maybe even 64 or 65 knots or miles per hour here. So it is definitely a very strong system on the eastern side. Pretty much a completely different storm on the western side, where it's not nearly as strong as the eastern side here. Now here's my current storm path, and you see this is my cone of uncertainty, and I have this low pressure system. Again, it was located off the southeastern North Carolina coast, and then it's going to move further to the east, maybe move a little bit further to the north before making its way further to the east, and then moving south over areas like the Bahamas over here, so, or the Bermuda, I mean. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and turning on notifications to never miss a video when I do upload. Anyways, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.